Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen a hot take before, well, it's where a few friends get in a basement and we give our thoughts, we give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a TV show, and that TV show is Fallout. Here to discuss, as always, a man who knows war. War never changes. Chris Trio.
Gooch, I have been staring at that orange-colored sky all week, and I'm very excited to talk about Fallout. How are you doing, sir?
I am elated to talk about Fallout.
You just finished last night, right?
I just finished last night, so I'm very fresh off of it. But
that's nice, because I binged it all in like 3 days. So I'm glad you kind of spaced it out.
Honestly, though, a show well worth binging.
Easy. Dude,
a show
easy.
well worth binging. But before we get into it, we want to make a little of an announcement. This is the first time you're going to hear about it from us proper on the podcast.
Absolutely.
We're going to be doing a panel at Fan Expo Philadelphia the weekend of May 3rd to the 5th. Our panel is going to be on May 4th at 10:45 in the morning. It is going to be located in the greater the Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philadelphia, which is weird. You think
confusing.
You think
the Philadelphia
convention. You think it'd be the Philadelphia Convention Center since it's in Philadelphia, but
Correct.
It's the Pennsylvania Convention Center. It's going to be on level 1 in the workshop section in room 125. You can find this information on our social media post, but we are going to be talking about the great superhero game drought, a topic our lovely friend of the show, host, guest.
We're also friends.
What are you?
Yeah,
we're
co-hosts,
Trio.
friends.
The
of
triple
friends.
threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Trio's leading the charge of this topic, so we're going to be doing the video game superhero mashing up.
Yeah.
Talk about the lack of superhero games. Once
lack of good ones, anyways.
Yeah, once you sit down and think about it, you kind of realize it's like, there really isn't that much to pick from. Not a lot of great ones either.
Absolutely.
But we hope to see you there in the crowd again, May 4th, 10:45 a.m.
And then Fan Expo for those who don't know, used to be Comic-Con, right? Wizard World, right? Yeah. So the Philly Comic-Con, for lack of a better term.
It travels through I think just the U.S. Yeah. So I know it goes to Cleveland and plenty of other cities, but May 4th, 10:45 a.m.
Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
I just realized that.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fun. That's fun.
I realized that almost immediately.
You know what, Gooch? I'm not as big of a Star Wars fan, apparently.
But let's not talk about Star Wars and talk about the Fallout, baby.
Crawling out.
Dude.
So
where do we start with this
pretty
masterpiece of a show? I mean, I think it's the best video game adaptation we've ever had. I think it beats The Last of Us in terms of that sort of genre, blows it out of the water. It's a much different adaptation in terms of, hey, we're not adapting a Fallout game, but we're making a show in the Fallout universe. And they nail it. I think they do a lot of homage to the games. If you're a fan of the games, you're going to have some moments that are going to be like, specifically
you're
with...
You're Leo the whole time.
What?
You're going to be Leo the whole time. Just like, whoa.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Especially if you're a Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas fan, specifically. I think if you, a lot of the aesthetics of Fallout 4 kind of carry over, but for the narrative and the lore, it's 1, 2, and New Vegas that are really hitting hard here. Dude, I just can't, I just don't understand how right they nailed it.
It is pretty wild, and I think the main reason that I agree with you on the fact that this is the best video game adaptation over Last of Us, because don't get me wrong, The Last of Us is fantastic. It's incredibly well made. They understood the source material and they put it to screen. But that was more of a direct translation. Which
it's there.
You have the entirety of the story. Whereas with this, they're not adapting, like you said, a Fallout 1 or Fallout. They're taking elements from those story points and stuff like that and expounding upon them. But they understood the assignment. I said this before.
Yeah, they really did.
And I've never felt like a reverence for the source material come through like this for a video game adaptation before. It felt like Peter Jackson understanding Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean? He get it. He got it, I should say. He put it on screen. It's one of the best representations of that lore you can have. And I think Jonathan Nolan and his team did the exact same here. They understood it down to a T. Even this... My roommate and my girlfriend were sitting there. I was giggling like a little schoolgirl at a lot of
those
points
last few episodes,
especially the last few episodes. But even the little stuff like Lucy getting injured, going for a med kit, and then pulling out a stim pack, and using it, and they're not spending a moment on it to be like, look,
this is what a stim pack is.
It heals you. They understand that you're not an idiot and can understand from context clues. they respect your intelligence as an audience member, and it's funny because Jonathan Nolan before this was like, there was this whole quote going around. It's something about don't listen to the fans, or like you can't really care what the fans think about when making these things to a degree, because like you'll start catching yourself up. And I do think that is a fair point to a degree, and I think it just shows you that in this case it's the way to go. I mean, he understood the assignment, they understood what they were trying to do, and it is the best adaptation of a video game by far. But let's get into some specific points here. Lucy, what did you think about it?
Oh, I loved Lucy. I think they really.
I love Lucy.
I do love Lucy.
Yeah.
I think they nailed the idea of like the Vault Dweller concept really well. I think Fallout 3 and 4 kind of lose that very quickly. Like the idea that like, you're a Vault Dweller, you've never been to the surface, you have no idea about like what's going on. So like you really would have literally no idea as to anything that's going on. And I feel like in the games you kind of quickly lose that for the sake of like the game. Like you're not an idiot the entire time.
Right.
But Lucy really feels like a fish out of water. Up until pretty much I feel like the last, not that she is a learned Vault Dweller and a Wastelander, but I think she's starting to understand the world above her at the end. But like, for the majority of the show, she, is trusting of people when she shouldn't be, kind of willing to like gives people a chance. And you find that in the Wasteland, in the post-apocalyptic world, that you really can't give people a chance. It seems like, pulling your gun and taking them down is the better move.
Absolutely.
I've never really seen Ella Purnell. Is it Purnell or Purnell? I've never heard anyone.
Ella Purnell. I would say Purnell.
Yeah, she's awesome. I really like her. Like she's been in Yellow Jackets and Arcane. She voices a character in that Netflix show. Yeah, and I really dug her. I think the whole cast for all intents and purposes is fantastic. Moises Arias, Rico from Hannah Montana coming back, and I feel like I was like, wow,
being a star of the show for me.
I really liked Norm.
I love Norm.
I'm excited to see where Norm's storyline goes in the next season, because I hope they kind of continue it, because they did leave it off on a cliffhanger, which was really cool. But to see sort of, we don't get one vault in the show, we get four. Four brand new vaults we've never seen in the games: 31, 32, 33, and 4. And I think they really displayed the idea of the vaults well, that they're experiments, and they don't really get into the fact that some are fun. Well, actually, no, they do. They do tell you that Howard's wife, I forget her name off the top of my head, like kind of informs like, like some vaults are just normal, but like some vaults are like,
we want to be in the good vaults.
Right. Yeah. Right. Some vaults are experiments, and that's straight from the games as well. Again, this is set for those who don't play the games. This is canon to the games. We're 9 years after Fallout 4. The events of every Fallout game is on display here. We see that with the Brotherhood and the NCR. Shady Sands is a particular reference to Fallout 2.
Yeah, that was one. See, because I started playing 3, obviously, and you told me I meant to look into it a little bit more, but that's stuff that eluded me a little bit.
Yeah, so the founder of the NCR is a Vault Dweller from Vault 15, and you encounter Aradesh in Fallout 1 and his daughter Tandy. Aradesh is the first president of the NCR. He founds Shady Sands in the second game, or in between the first and the second game. And in the second game, you are a descendant of the Vault Dweller from Vault 13, who's the main character of 1. And then Tandy in Fallout 2 is like almost like 90 years old, and Shady Sands is like founded the NCR as a thing.
Right.
So the NCR originates in this area, this California area, that even New Vegas kind of takes place. So 1, 2, and New Vegas are kind of all in this California, Nevada, Arizona sector.
Peninsula.
So it was interesting to see like them not take the Bethesda standpoint and do the East Coast, but take like the origin of the games in the West Coast and go off that.
They seem to have a very firm grasp of all of the games, as far as I can tell. I know there was some like hand-wringing about some, retconning, which I still don't even think is really like, maybe it might be, but at this point it doesn't seem like that is the case. People saying like Fallout New Vegas doesn't is not canon anymore, but then like Todd Howard and Jonathan Nolan came out, and were like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a tight timeline, but like they were saying like before the nukes is when New Vegas happened. But anyways, to talk about El Pernell just a little bit more.
Before the nukes.
Before the nuke that destroys Shady Sands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. People were, I don't know. I'm too online, so maybe I'm paying attention to
I haven't really seen like the nitty gritty of
Maddie's done some good videos on it so far.
There's always been with Fallout since Bethesda's gotten the IP. There's always been these like lore purists that have had a problem with how Bethesda has sort of gone forward with the lore. And I think the Brotherhood is a good example, because if you've played Fallout 3 and like that's the only one you've played, and maybe New Vegas, like you probably don't really have a grasp on like what the real Brotherhood is.
No, absolutely, because even in New Vegas you really don't get a lot. They're just in the bunker. And
so I think New Vegas depicts it fine, but I think it depicts how like on legs or how like on shaky legs they are. It seems like the Brotherhood in the show is a faction. It's not. I guess, like, I was kind of thinking about this. I guess the Brotherhood is now with Arthur Maxson in the Capital Waste and the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. I think he took them, or at least the ones who decided to go with them.
Some people are saying that's the Predwin. Like, there's a theory.
No, it's definitely not the Pridwin.
Did they say that?
I'm pretty sure they confirmed it's not the Pridwin. Like, in the trailer came out, they confirmed it's the same kind of ship.
But it's not the Predwin?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. But, just to get back to El Pernell really quick, I really do think she is freaking... No, you're good. There's so much to go through here. She is truly fantastic in this role. There's a really tight line you have to walk when to not be annoying as this type of person, like this type of character, where it's like,
sure,
you're over, like, they're just so stupid where you're like, what are you even doing? She wants to give everyone the benefit of the doubt that they're a nice person, because she's grown up in this egalitarian society where everyone's supposedly truly gotten by on merit, and like they're trying to create this, because their vault isn't really an experiment, but it like sort of is a little bit to a degree. Yeah.
But it's much more like a regular, multi-purposed experiment.
Yes, and this was the first time we ever seen connected vaults like this. Which was very interesting.
Yeah, so you have, we'll get to the 31, but we see at the beginning of the show that like Vault 32 and 33 are swapping people to essentially not inbreed, and I thought it was funny with the jokes of like her fucking her cousin and stuff.
The
or like they messed around.
In this, man,
it's really funny.
There's a few parts, especially from Maximus, that made me genuinely laugh out loud. I've never seen a show or like a piece of media handle like irreverent comedy this well without taking away from the seriousness of the situation, if that makes any sense. I think they handle the comedy appropriately, but they let those moments of true drama kind of sit. But dude, there's some like Tarantino level, I feel like, violence in this, silliness to a degree, which I appreciate as well. But yeah, Ella Purnell, she's fantastic. She plays that interested but unknowing vault dweller very well, who gets it but isn't so annoying that she overbears you. I think Maximus...
I was going to say, you said stupid, and I instantly think of Maximus. I was talking to my cousin John last night, shout out to John, and he was like, I really hated Maximus. I really liked him.
I did too.
Because of how different I really expected him to be like very pro Brotherhood and like really about what they're doing. And for those who don't know, the Brotherhood is not really a good faction. The idea of them is they hoard technology from humanity and choose to use it in their own way, and that's how they're
basically to gather technology, right?
They gather technology and they use it for their own purposes. They don't share it with the world. They're not helping people. And they're keeping it away from everybody.
And that's because they believe humanity can't handle it, right? They're like, this is what happened with the Great War. We can't give people technology.
And the idea is it descends from Roger Maxson, who was alive like pre-bomb, apocalypse, and that's like the Brotherhood is like one of the factions from the beginning.
Interesting.
So they've been around through like the entire post-nuclear catastrophe.
Yeah.
And they're bad guys. In 3, they're good guys. And a group led by an elder named Elder Lyons, they go to the east, and he decides that fuck this whole like technocratic bullshit. Like, we're gonna like get that technology and we're gonna give back to people and like help the wasteland out. And that was like most people's first introduction to the Brotherhood in Fallout 3. And And then if you've played Fallout 1 and 2, you know that's not true. And then we get to 4, where Arthur Maxon has grown into an adult. He's the next lineage of the Maxon line, and he's like, we're getting back to base here.
Yeah.
Brings in the Brotherhood Outcasts from Fallout 3, because there's that group that remember with the red
Outcasts,
and black
power
armor. They're the ones actually doing the Brotherhood stuff. They're really not the Outcasts. So it's interesting to see we're really back to base with the Brotherhood being like really, really strict.
Important,
but again, it seems like the scribe that's leading them is really grasping for power and wants to break
away.
rogue. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I liked Maxon's stupidity to a degree because it showed Maximus, thank you.
Yeah.
The M's are gonna kill me.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I think it's appropriate for its character because like they've just been taught to be kind of servants.
Yeah,
they're shills. They're just
never
guys
really got that idea with the Brotherhood that they were that
they were that low, like on the totem pole.
Yeah,
and
they didn't really seem like
they are
that
just
much of dicks to each other.
Right. I think that's definitely something they've kind of leaned to in this. But I like the idea of him not understanding these things because he's just been raised from a young age and kind of propagandized into. Because I felt like he did love the Brotherhood and he wanted that knight status, and he does really kind of. Give a shit about the organization because he feels like they saved him, especially after the nuke.
I mean, we find out that Maximus is, I guess, one of the sole survivors of the devastation of Shady Sands.
It looks like he Indiana Jones'd it.
Yeah, he did. Did you think? I think that was a actual nod to the joke.
It could have been. Yeah, I think because
there is an Easter egg in Fallout New Vegas where you find a skeleton with the Indiana Jones hat in the fridge.
Yeah.
If it's Fallout
that would make sense
humor,
to me.
Like that's definitely what that was a reference to. But yeah, and one of the big lore points of this game is again Shady Sands, capital of the NCR, has been nuked off the face of the earth.
And
we'll get to the.
They changed the location a little bit, right, of Shady Sands or something.
Do people really know exactly where Shady Sands was located? It was created with a GEC,
sure,
actually, originally from Fallout 15. That's
the GEC is the thing from Fallout 3, right?
The Garden of Eden creation kit. Yeah, so I
started 3 recently.
Yeah, so the idea of it is it's like a portable like
seed to a degree.
Yeah, it fertilizes the area so that you can it can be habitable.
Yeah.
I'm not it's pretty interesting, but yeah, it's society in a box essentially. That's the idea of it.
Right.
I'm not sure. I know. I forget that one vault that Tranquility Lane is in 3. That vault has it, or no? You find it's 80. Is it 87? The one with the FEV experiments. They have the GEC because you got to get Fox to go and get it for you. Remember?
I remember.
That's
pretty cool.
I've been diving deep back into Fallout lore, so I'm
I've been playing a ton for
familiar again.
That's awesome. But I don't know. Maximus didn't. He felt endearing to me actually a lot. In a lot of ways.
For some reason I kind of enjoyed it.
I could see it not working for
when
people,
he was with Titus the Knight, and he encounters the Yaogwai, and he has a very player reaction of fuck,
yeah.
and it is played for laughs,
sure,
for mostly, but I think the fact that he just kind of lets him die and then takes his power armor is pretty interesting.
Again, I think to the strength of the series, that is kind of funny right there, but then I feel like it immediately turns to a seriousness of Maximus being like he's just shitting on Maximus and being like, you're gonna fucking die for this, they're gonna kill you for letting this happen to me, and you see him just kind of slowly get serious, oh, I'm just gonna let you die. Why would you keep saying all this? And he's like, fuck
you're stealing your own fate.
Yeah, and I actually really like that scene, but even that whole thing of having, I forget that guy's Michael Rappaport or something.
Not sure his name.
He's a somewhat famous comedic actor, I think. Having him go from that, and I know you said you didn't really love the TI voice.
Are you talking about Maximus?
Knight Titus, the knight that he was with first. You hear him in that that voice, and I know you weren't a big fan of the very robotic.
Yeah, I think one of the negative things for me is that power armor voice. The idea of power armor was never this villainous thing, but I guess for this show, maybe it kind of is.
Well, and I truly think it was for that reveal, because you go from this Knight Titus, he's very serious and talking in this robotic voice, to Michael Rappaport taking off his helmet and be like, oh, what the fuck? What did you do to me? You let me die. And I felt like it was kind of almost for that reveal to make it kind of a more
the context is important there. Yeah.
But I really like that scene, and then he takes over the armor. That also scene of Maximus. There are a few slight tweaks to little things which I think you have to make in order to make things make sense, where you need a key to take out someone's fusion core now. And when he gets his fusion core taken out by the new squire that shows up and he's just just stuck in the power armor, I was like, that would be terrifying. I would go crazy. Like, you're just in this fucking suit that you can't move in. Just a small point. But let's move on to, I think, the star of the show for me. And
Mr.
for a lot of people.
Walton Goggins.
Mr. Walton Goggins himself. Cooper Howard. What a name.
You think they named Howard after Todd?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, we were talking about sort of the reverence of the series. Todd Howard was an executive producer on the show.
Yeah, and he seemed to have, Bethesda in general, but also him had a very heavy hand in, like, the lore. But it seemed like the show was in good hands. I mean, Jonathan Nolan and them understood the games very well. They definitely played them. Yeah. You can tell.
Ella Purnell went back, and I don't know if she played 3 or 4 in New Vegas or whatever, but she said, like, multiple times that she played it.
I wouldn't be surprised if she did 4.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear, like, that, like, oh, yeah, like, like, at first, like, I didn't want to, but then I was like, no, like, I think I should. Mm-hmm. And then, just the way she was talking, and I know, like, Walton Goggins didn't end up playing it, but, he's like, I don't think I want to, and, like, he kind of explained why, and I was like, oh, that's sound. It's not like he's playing Master Chief, where, like, you really need to understand this character. Like, you're breathing life into this character. Like, maybe it's good that you don't have this preconceived notion of, like, what a ghoul is and how a ghoul should act, because we definitely do.
And that's the so I don't think, honestly, someone needs to play these games if they're going to do it. Like does someone need to read Dune if they're going to act in it? No. You need someone there that understands it, though, and they had the team there that understood it and conveyed it to Walton Goggins, and, like, he got it. He understood what they were saying, and he put it to screen. And god damn it, man, one of the coolest characters I've seen in a while.
I love the opening of the show, kind of giving you, it's like, hey, like, this was society, and we show that Cooper, and I guess at this point in his career, seemed to be a bit washed up, being a cowboy at a party in his, his Vault-Tec looking,
like, colored themed, like cowboy outfit.
At this point, it makes sense, but soon as I saw him, I'm like, yeah, he has the Vault-Tec colors on. Yeah. I wonder what that's about. And then the nukes drop, and.
Dude, what a harrowing scene.
Yeah.
Like, in the way of, like, it's so scary because they're all sitting there and the mom's like, turn off the TV. Let's not worry about it today. Like, we don't have to.
Right.
Let's enjoy the
looming danger of nuclear fallout.
And they're just sitting in the middle of, like, a barbecue for this kid's birthday, and the bombs just go off in the back. And that scene of Goggins, of Cooper, just, like, looking out at them. It's truly fantastic. I don't think you could have had a better opening to the show.
And I like how we end of, like, what he says, he's like, where's my family? So it looks like his wife and daughter are alive,
probably somewhere.
And we'll get to the ending, but, like, he didn't make it, and so I wonder what happened to him. He's a ghoul, so he must not have made it to a vault and to become a ghoul.
But his daughter was with him, so that's the only thing that's confusing to me.
Right, yeah.
I'm wondering how that will work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he had one of my favorite storylines. I think they used the present day stuff just enough, because I think there's a line that you can step over.
The injection of the pre-war.
I completely agree.
Stuff.
I do think you can overstep that boundary, though, because Fallout's pretty squarely about after the bombs drop. And I think if you start dipping, like, if, like, in a whole episode maybe is set in the before time, I think you're kind of going a little overboard in this first season. But I think now that you've gotten some time to breathe and they've given us this first season, you might be able to set an entire episode next season.
Yeah,
in the pre-war
I mean,
time.
in the games, we really don't see any pre-war. Like, we
Fallout
hear
4
about
was the
it,
first
but
time.
Fallout 4, we actually, like, our opening sequence is pre-war. So it was kind of like that, but, like, there was a lot of juicy lore bits, especially towards the end of the show. But also to show the viewer, it's like, hey, like, this is what society was like, especially since the fact that the game deviates in our timeline at World War II, where the develop of atomic energy is kind of what proliferates in society, and that is sort of like how society is based around, like, atomic energy.
They don't focus on computational power as much as like nuclear energy and stuff like that, because they're still, like, you see the computers, they're all these, like, old 50s style.
And, like, the music doesn't really progress, like, everything kind of the dress and like the way people are, the cars, they're still
fucking
smoking
music,
in
man.
2077. like inside and in corporate settings. Like, yeah, it's retro futuristic. And it's cool. You know, ghouls in the game are sort of like that. Usually the ghouls who are still alive are pre-war ghouls. And they're people who lived before the bombs and just didn't make it to the shelter, and they didn't get killed by the radiation.
They were mutated.
Yeah, they get mutated to the point where like they're still alive, but it was cool to see. We never really seen a ghoul kind of
transition.
Yeah, really like coming to blows with like the feralness of becoming a ghoul, because in the games it's ghouls who are still humans, and then the feral ghouls, which are like the zombie type characters. We see like one or two of those, and then the one friend who gets killed who's like, you know, almost turning, but you know,
right.
the ghoul, our titular ghoul, Cooper Howard, you know, puts him out of his misery. And he seems to be, I'm curious as to what he's taking to stave it off. I don't think it's Jet.
So that's the thing. That seems to be a new element that they've added. That because I thought the idea was after a while your brain just rots and you go feral. That's at least how I took it in the games before.
Yeah.
So in this, there seems to be this, you know, some type of drug that he's taking that's keeping his mind from going like crazy.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a whole new drug.
Yeah.
Because they show
with.
Jet at the one point. The guy takes it.
The first episode when the Raiders come into Vault 33. Yeah. The
guy
Raiders
just freaks.
Here's some Jet.
Dude,
you know?
Again, just the little things that they could have put any drug in there. They could have done anything. But no, they took the actual drug. And even like all the company names and all the background dressing, they did it. I can't believe that they did it.
The Vault's practical trio. How important was that?
It looks so
they felt like they were
you were in
that
a place.
vault. They felt, and they were wearing the Vault jumpsuits, and it felt like a vault. 110%. We've seen this a lot in the game, so we know what they look like, what they sound like, what they feel like, what the Pip-Boy looks like, sounds like, feels like. Everything.
They did redesign the Pip-Boy a little bit, which I think they just sleeked it down.
It's that one in the back from Fallout 4. It's like that version of it, but like a little different, which is fine. I can understand, and it makes sense.
Practicality, you're slimming it down a little bit.
Right, but in lore, there are different versions of Pip-Boys, and like, you know, we've already seen that before with Fallout 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
76 has like a different one, right? That's like an older one. Yeah,
you know,
it looks cool.
We've seen it. So like to buy the idea that different vaults got different versions of Pip-Boys is totally
absolutely
fine for me.
I think they did truly also a fantastic job of marrying the three storylines of Maximus the Ghoul and I do think they kind of,
but they don't team them up together, and I like that.
I do. I agree.
I think it
all marries very well.
Yeah.
I do think they run into the trapping, which I'm willing to accept because, you know, you got to get the show to go forward, that they keep somehow running into each other in this huge wasteland. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Which is, I think they kind of try and explain it with a few things, like, you know, the one Squire's using the tracker and stuff like that, and the Ghoul has the dog.
The tracker on the Pip-Boy was... I was like, that's awesome.
That is cool. Again, things you can expound about, like, we've never seen that before.
She reaches her destination and her waypoint goes away.
It's so good.
Like, she put a waypoint on her Pip-Boy map.
Even at the beginning when they're all she's going into to apply to be like the breeder or whatever, and they all like vote on their Pip-Boy, and it comes up and gives her the thing. It's some great little moments that really kind of add up. But, you know, I think it's tough to take three storylines and marry them together in a way that makes sense and is cohesive and is enjoyable. And by the time you get to the end of the season, you just feel so satisfied. I feel like I got a lot of the answers to the questions that I wanted. Felt like a complete story, but they set up a whole new one that I'm very excited for.
What? Ooh, sorry. You're good. We haven't had a spill in a while.
Well, that's why we do tops. You don't do topless on a water bottle.
Yeah, shirts on the podcast.
Absolutely.
No topless.
No topless. Yeah. We're not on OnlyFans.
What did you think? What did you think about Moldaver?
Moldaver, I thought she was an interesting character.
Because I don't think we fully know exactly who she is yet.
I really like the idea of them leaning into like the Red Scare aspect of being back in the before war time, of like they just keep everyone who doesn't like war, they're like, Pinko, fuck you, Pinko. And by the end, you know, Moldaver's just like, no, I don't want, you know, the world to end here. And I think it's a kind of really kind of interesting exploration of the type of political like climate they were dealing with, especially back in the 50s, and the way that that's the idea that it just kept going and going and going. I couldn't. They're fighting over resources, right?
Yeah, there's a resource war.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And the idea is the Americans have China on the back foot, right? And they're invading China, and that's when they launch the bombs.
No.
No?
There's nothing going on. Anchorage is the last battle between China and America.
Okay, interesting.
Which is a conflict that Cooper Howard was in.
Right.
And, that we play in a Fallout 3 DLC. We play through the Battle of Anchorage, and that, ends the conflict. But the idea is,
what I was seeing on Wikipedia,
they're kind of, maybe I'm a little wrong.
They were I think they were at least as far as, Wikipedia and stuff was saying, the Americans were invading China, and, they were starting to make way. And, Chinese were like, fuck you. Launch.
Yeah, so in the last episode, they kind of, there's this, maybe I'm jumping a little ahead about.
No, it's
a little. But I'm pretty confident China launches the nukes. We don't.
Right. That's the implication for sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what actually happens. That China nuked us.
Yes.
And we nuked them.
And then it was a 2-hour exchange that just destroyed the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Great War that lasted 2 hours.
Yes. Yeah. On October 23rd, 2077. That's why you see Halloween decorations still around.
By the way, can I also say this show does a great job of not beating you over the head with story points? Because you could easily start off that first beginning scene where they're they have everything on the screen. It's 2077. America's at war. And they kind of have a little bit of thing on the he's talking on the channel being what the fuck's going on in war? And she's turn that off. But I think they do really respect your intelligence a lot in the show. And I really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And it was fun to watch it with my girlfriend who has no basis at all for Fallout. And she loved it. By the end, she was like, that was awesome. I can't wait for season 2. And I'm like, yeah. Music to my ears, man. But yeah, I think Cooper and that whole exploratory idea of him dealing with the present day and then moving forward was maybe my favorite part.
Yeah, but he's still kind of on that mission to sort of find his family and he's a bounty hunter and I loved his guns. That when we see it is it the first or second episode?
Yeah, I think so. First, maybe.
Yeah, when he uses he's using a pistol that shoots mini nukes.
Yeah,
which is again as a game player totally feasible. We've seen the experimental MIRV and the mini nuke launcher. Yeah. We've seen the rocket launcher and the shish kebab. We've seen crazy weapons. So this isn't too far out of the possibility.
They use the jump jet.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. I love it. That whole first scene of him being introduced is awesome. I gotta say, when they pull him up, I'm like, oh, what's going on? I guess he was being tortured or something.
Yeah, Philly also seems to be just a random trash
settlement. Yeah,
yeah. And so what's funny? Variety misinterpreted that, and they actually, I was reading up on it. They called it Philly, Philadelphia. Yeah, and they were wrong. It was Philly as in
landfill.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's good.
Which is cool, and I think the idea for Lucy leaving the vault, going after Dad, really Fallout 3, especially with their origins, that we find out that Hank McClane was not born in the vault. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into more in that later, but that's very Fallout 3, where Liam Neeson, who plays your dad in Fallout 3, is not from Vault 101. No. You weren't born in Vault 101, but you're told that you are, and that hey, everyone's been born down here, and in Vault 101 you live, you die down here. We're not leaving. Mm-hmm. And then the vault opens, you go after your dad, try to figure out what's going on. They take the same approach with this. But going back to the Philly point, I think Philly is supposed to be our Megaton.
Yeah,
it's
for
that
sure.
first town you get to.
100%.
It's a little crazy. I was kind of a bit annoyed. I don't think everyone in the Fallout universe is these, kind of hillbilly, scrap together people. Not everyone looks like that.
But what else would they look like? Because I felt, even going back to...
A lot of people look normal in Fallout.
Not really? Because I'm playing Fallout 3 and everyone's dressed in rags and shit.
Yeah, they're dressed in rags, but they're not hey, they're not stupid.
But you got also you got to this is California. Maybe got you're Southern California. You got some Southerners out there, and I actually really
like the guy that Lucy runs into. With
I thought that scene was really fun. I liked that one a lot because it didn't feel like every character was that.
No,
at least
I was
to
just
me.
I hope every character isn't like
that for sure.
Yeah, and we run into a few raider groups, and they mentioned the Fiends. At one point, which is a raider group from
those
the
two
New
people
Vegas
were Fiends.
Area.
The ones that they crossed the bridge with.
Yeah.
That try to go for their Pip Boy.
Yeah.
But I fucking love this show, man. I don't know where do we want to go next with the. I feel like we covered all the characters for the most part, except
we were talking about Moldaver.
Right.
Yeah, and she clearly someone from pre-war, but she's not a Vault-Tec employee, and we find out that Vault 31 is a cryogenic vault for like the entirety of Vault-Tec.
Like they're executives. At least it seemed to me.
It was always kind of a question of like, it is weird that kind of Vault-Tec didn't survive the war, but like I think this inclusion that like, hey, there's a vault where like they're kind of like scheming,
all the head honchos.
They're kind of scheming to come back, and they're not all back at once, but they kind of like really like Betty being the secretary that we see in when Cooper goes to Vault-Tec to kind of spy on his wife and to find out that Vault-Tec is meeting with Mr. House from New Vegas. I mean, we see him and we could possibly kill him in New Vegas, and Sinclair from Big Mountain, who we see creates the Sierra Madre from New Vegas, and the Repcon and West Tech. Like, we see all these companies we've heard countless times. Like, that was like a really cool moment. It was really cool, man. And they kind of all like get on the spot. It's like, hey, like, we're gonna do experiments in vaults, and we want you to do that too. Yeah. So that like like the idea that like time is this common. No, I don't want to say that. The time is this like valuable asset, and like that's how we're going to win the war by surviving.
True. And it's like it's the truest form of capitalism, if you will, where they bring them in. They're like, the best idea wins. Like, you guys all get your vaults, and whoever comes out on top, that's who wins. And
right.
So I keep seeing this implication. I don't know. Maybe I completely missed when they do say this. Like.
And Hank McClain is one of those people too.
That was a great reveal.
Yeah.
That Vault-Tec drops the first bombs.
Yeah, I think they said that because like, hey, like we could just do this.
Yeah.
I don't think they did.
Right.
I'm really convinced that I think that's like an interesting thing to throw in, that Vault-Tec had the idea of starting the apocalypse themselves so they can kind of, like put this plan into action.
Yeah.
But the idea that
their vaults don't
because
mean
we
anything.
know from Mr. House that, he was like preparing, the idea with Mr. House is he
was running simulations, right?
Right, he was running simulations about New Vegas, and he was going to protect Vegas from the bombs, which he does like almost successfully. And I was listening to a dialogue from New Vegas when he's talking about it, and he's like, he had the platinum chip coming to Vegas, right, and it was 20 hours too late. Like, the bombs dropped, like the chip was going to come the next day,
right,
and then the bombs dropped that day, and he, from what he had available to him, he was able to stop like 79 warheads, but a few got through enough to do some damage, but Vegas
right,
was saved.
Yeah.
Like, he saved Vegas. So, I don't think they would totally retcon this whole thing to be like, yeah, Vault-Tec dropped the nukes. It's like that seems like unrealistic to me. A little bit, but the idea that Vault-Tec had the idea is totally something
I need to go back and watch the scene, because also it seems like they are just it felt like to me more they were working behind the scenes and like the political machinations type of like lobbying and being like, right, they bought the cold fusion reactor so they could shelve it, and that way there's the resource war continues on, all this stuff. And it doesn't really make any sense to me that they would drop it with like Cooper and his daughter out there, like,
right. They were not ready.
Yeah,
we know that.
So I don't know, because I keep seeing people online being like, this conclusively means that Vault-Tec dropped a bomb.
No, I don't think so.
Which again, I'd have to go back and watch the scene. It didn't feel that way to me when I watched it.
It was just an idea. It's like, we could, and then once we're ready, we can just go.
Right. Because they don't want their investment drying up. Just because if the war ends, those vaults just sit there and degrade, and they never are used. So. Yeah, that whole scene of like even Walton Goggins sitting there, like his acting, man. Dude, Walton Goggins, every time I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, he's one of the best actors of our generation. I always forget for some reason.
Like him that much?
I really enjoy him to like an unruly degree. He's so good in this. He's hilarious when he wants to be funny. There's a show called Vice Principals with him and Danny McBride. It was like 2 seasons on HBO Max.
Yeah, I remember.
One of the funniest shows I've ever seen. He's hilarious in it. Even in The Righteous Gemstones, like, he plays serious so well. He plays comedic very well. He's just fantastic. He turns on the charm and whatever. I mean, dude, Hateful Eight, him and that, like, he plays an asshole, racist piece of shit. But by the end of the movie, I'm like, nah, he's all right. He's kind of cool. Like, he's so good. I really think he's truly undervalued in a lot of ways. And that ghoul makeup, man,
It looks good.
It looks amazing, and I know
they did it practically, man. I mean, they CGI'd his nose.
Of course,
off.
because that's what they did for Red Skull too, way back.
Yeah, it looks great.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Also, I hate looking at a hole in someone's face.
So let's criticize real quick.
Okay.
How did you feel about Kyle MacLachlan de-aging?
Totally fine. Ian, it's funny because we were watching with Ian, and he was like, and I was like, oh, that de-age looks good. He was like, he was de-aged? Like, he had no idea.
Okay.
I think it looked fine.
Yeah, I think it was all right. But again, I'm not gonna get like upset about it. It's not like a Luke Skywalker situation where it's a character people know and love. And going to,
but
like,
that makes sense to the degree. But also, I think the innate problem with de-aging someone is that I know they aren't that age. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like my subconscious is like, that's not real.
People aware like us.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I do think your regular pleb isn't even thinking twice about that. It was
cool. Like speaking of Kyle MacLachlan, loved him in this role. He was
great.
Cool seeing him in Dune a few months ago. His like first role to now his most latest. I think he really fit the overseer type really well.
He was so good.
You know, like the fact that he was this like devious Vault-Tec exec on the back end was really kind of surprising, and to hear that his wife was just kind of somebody from the vault and like really not involved in any of this, and he had kids sort of out of love, and then she steps out of line from this plan, from this this business corporate plan that he has, and he totally
just kills her and takes the kids.
Divorces it, and it looks like Moldaver and her had some sort of relationship as well,
right?
Because she keeps her there. Why else would she keep her as a ghoul if she didn't like care about her? I was
wondering that. I think it was more to show Kyle MacLachlan what he did.
No, I think they had a relationship, and
I didn't get that at all.
From the flashback scenes, they seem very.
I think she just
each other.
Sure, I just took it as they cared about each other. Like she was a good friend, and then Kyle he kills her, and then she leaves her alive as like, look what you did.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. But no, I can see what you're saying too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because and then like again, Shady Sands is nuked. I was kind of assuming that maybe the Brotherhood did it with the help of McLean. I guess Vault-Tec has nukes.
They have
somewhere.
nuke silos probably. I'm sure there's a nuke silo attached to 33 and 32. Yeah. And so it seems to me that there's a bunch of Vault-Tec execs that were in Vault 31.
Yeah.
And the 32
the bud guy is the brain.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
I love
in like the Roomba. And he with the needle.
It's so good,
Norm,
man.
Dude. I fucking love Norm.
It's so good.
When they're investigating Vault 32, I was like, dude. He
pulls up the hacking screen.
Oh my god, dude! I was gonna cry. I was gonna cry
again.
I was like,
and they don't like linger on it. They just do it.
Right?
He
doesn't even do a dud. He gets the password like one go. He doesn't do like allowance or like removes the dud or something like that. Like Moises Ari's character was really cool. Like I just thought like there was something really compelling about the fact that like we're going back to the vault and Norm is like really sus about everything that's going on.
I kind of thought we were gonna leave him alone, and I'm glad we didn't.
And even with the girl whose husband dies, who has the one eye, who's also like a Vault-Tec exec, like her being like weirdly promiscuous kind of makes sense now.
She just wants more. Yeah, exactly. And like, so it seems like everyone in Vault 31 was picked for their genetic makeup. Like they were the best genes that they could get,
right?
And then all the 31s are people or execs that they come in and mate with, for lack of a better term.
Like both. Like Stephanie is from Vault 31,
so that's what I mean. So
but she's also a birth person because she's a girl.
Yeah. But I take that as everyone from 31, like everyone. Sorry, here. Everyone in 31 was a normal individual that paid to be in a vault, but they were checked like for genetics.
No. 31 is comprised.
I'm sorry, 33. My apologies. I'm getting them backwards. Yeah. 33 are the regular people who just signed up for a vault. And 32.
Yeah,
and then 31 are all the execs that come in and
I guess 32 and 31, they guess they populate them both and then they just switch them around like.
And 32 figured out what was happening. It seemed they realized they were genetic experiments.
So Moldaver must have knew, and she must have been cryogenically frozen as well. I'm curious to see who she was working for or what kind of happened there, because it's like, how is she still alive?
I'm assuming
she had to have been frozen
because other people could make shelters of some kinds, and if she, like obviously,
right. If House can keep himself alive and actually not successfully, he ages.
Mm-hmm.
We find out, spoilers in Fallout New Vegas, that Mr. House is like living on through his technology, but his body is still alive, but it's a decrepit old
man. He's like in a pod.
Thing. Yeah.
But that whole experimental idea, and then you go into Vault 32, and there's just all fucked up, and I love seeing all the skeletons, placed out. Like, it's so very classic Fallout. In my
classic countering a vault, and you're learning through the environmental storytelling what happened here. I don't really think we know what happened to 32. It does, like...
So as I understand...
Moldaver must have knew, or like she found it. Like she must have knew that Vault 32 was there and she knew how to get into it. She knew. I think Vault 32 just actually fell apart.
Well, it did, and then I think that's what happened. I don't think it had anything to do with the outside world. To me, it seemed they found out what was happening. They found out they were like this genetic breeding experiment with all the Vault Tech X executives. They went crazy, tried to get out of the vault, couldn't. Moldaver comes back using his wife's Pip-Boy to get into Vault 32, come in that way.
Right, true. Yeah,
it goes from there. And then they now use Vault 32 to repopulate. And then
the Moldaver, so I was doing some research. She's not the leader of the NCR. She seems to be a leader of like a rogue faction of the NCR.
Well, she was part of like not resistance, but like she was part of the Reds before the war that wanted the war to end. Like, the non-war interventionists, it seemed like they knew where it was going. They were having those meetings with all again, very 50s Hollywood where they're all meeting like secretly.
Reagan era,
Even like we saw it with Oppenheimer, like, when he goes to that party and stuff like that. Super prevalent in that area, or that era, I should say. I just thought it was super interesting. We're definitely going to get more from her. Oh, so she's actually... Did she die?
Yes.
That's right, she does. And I did like that last moment.
She gets shot and she comes back, and her and Maximus are looking at Los Angeles lit up from the cold fusion thing. Yeah. We need to talk about what's his face? What's that actor's name?
I can't remember. Let me see.
Yeah.
Of the Enclave. Oh wow, he's really far back in here, huh?
Yeah, I mean he's only on screen for an episode or two, but I like how they take off the idea of like the cybernetic dogs from like Rex, in Fallout New Vegas from another Enclave group. The Enclave made those dog companions too. And understanding that the Enclave remnants still exist. I mean, we get that in New Vegas.
Wilzig. It was Michael Emerson.
Michael Emerson. Yeah, from Lost, and he's like a character actor you see a lot.
Yeah, it is interesting. We got a little bit of the Enclave, but not much.
No,
we see that little, and I like it, honestly.
I think the Enclave, really, their nail was in the coffin with 3. They're in 2 as well.
Oh, I think they're going to play a major part in the next season. Like, how
you think so?
I mean, you can't show them. They have a full facility. They seem to be really ready and raring to go. I feel like you can't just have them go away.
They're
going to be like, who took my fucking cold fusion reactor? You know what I mean? They're gonna go to the. I think they're gonna start. Hey, that's my cold fusion reactor. I think they're gonna show up and be like to the Brotherhood, like, hey, what the fuck? That's our cold fusion reactor. Yeah. And I think there's gonna be some conflict there. And then the NCR, I think, is obviously gonna come back in. I would just be very surprised if you just see this whole, like, they just show this whole thing, like the cold fusion reactor comes from the Enclave. They show this whole kind of set and where they are, and then they're just like, we're not gonna see them again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think a few more things. Vault 4 was interesting to see. Again, we're seeing like a vault that kind of fell apart and repopulated with.
We see how the gulpers are made, which I thought was interesting. That was a fucking rough scene when she gives birth. She gives birth to the gulpers and they eat her.
Oh, that was rough. That was rough.
They did change the gulpers look a little bit, but I think that they did it.
They just did put more detail in them.
Well, they made them look more humanoid. Because I noticed, like, they have, like, human arms and, like, a human torso.
And there's fingers in their mouths.
in their mouths. So I was like, oh, it looks like it's...
That encounter with the Gulper in episode 2 was really
good. Yeah, it was really awesome. I did like Johnny Peppertone, who plays the new Squire. Yeah. The scream made me laugh so hard for some reason when he goes, oh! And he gets pulled out.
And him with, like, his broken foot and the doctor that turns him into a ghoul, which is funny.
So he seemed to have... I think he gave him the thing that the Coopers use, that they take.
Yeah.
So,
because I was like, what the fuck is he giving him? And I could totally buy that there's some like concoction that is. Well,
I thought he just got like high and was like seeing that almost at first, like it didn't actually happen, and he was like, oh, okay.
And I like the reference to like the radio stations that exist, and this guy's just like running this radio station.
Fred Armisen, that was so good.
Oh, who is that?
That's Fred Armisen. He was from SNL and stuff. You would know.
Oh, okay.
He's in that Portlandia show and stuff.
Yeah.
You would definitely.
I mean, I definitely recognize what's his face from. What We Do in the Shadows.
I can't remember his name.
Cogsworth's name. Yeah. Or Cogsworth's voice. And, he's like, he bought my voice. And he's like, fucking, he's cursing up with, Cooper Howard at the party and stuff. But yeah, I mean, getting to the end, sort of. I mean, we can jump back a little bit if you want to, but
I feel like we covered a lot. To be honest, there's so much that it's just we're just gonna jump around.
There's a lot. But we kind of end off where Lucy kind of has this moment with her dad and realizes her dad's a really bad person,
like a monster.
Everything she's taught is like been like, well, this guy wasn't this at all. And I really like this, like Lucy's like come to
Jesus moment a little.
Where she's like, holy shit.
She's like, maybe I won't save my dad, actually.
Yeah, like I don't know. And like I like how she like kills her mom, like puts her out of her misery, or when the ghoul shows up and is like, hey, you can come with me, or you can just fuck off. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
And she like holds the gun out. Immediately I knew she was pointing it at her mom, not at the ghoul. And kills her, and then now all roads lead to New Vegas.
Yeah, McLaughlin walks away with his power armor. So I did like that moment of him just truly trying to convince Lucy and just losing. He's like, all right, I guess I just got to go. And so,
right.
So who is he going to see? So I didn't notice it. Actually,
I assume House.
That's my only guess.
He must know he's alive.
But the only thing that actually I didn't even catch, like while I was watching the show, I didn't realize it was nuked. Like it was blown up. Like it was all deteriorated.
I don't.
It looks broken down. It does not look active.
So here's my question: is that just the rendering of what they decided to make New Vegas look like? Because like
I think it would have lights and stuff going if it was active. If it was still like a working strip.
Yeah.
I think it looked decrepit on purpose.
Yeah. So like, and this brought in a lot of questions of like, the Tops is really what gives it away. The Tops Casino. Or no, the Lucky 38.
Right. Yeah. Because you have the tower. Right.
Yeah. So, we got to wonder what the canon of New Vegas is. Who won the second battle at the Hoover Dam? Is House alive? Did Caesar Legion win? Did the NCR win? What is really going on with the NCR? Is President
Where is New
Kimball
Vegas again?
still
It's in the Mojave Wasteland, which is it Cali?
No,
it's where it's Vegas. It is Vegas. Still.
Where's Vegas in real life?
No, because I thought Vegas was actually. I thought he like made because that's why it was New Vegas. I don't know why. In my mind, he like made a new.
It's on top of it.
Okay, I thought it was. All right, I just want to make sure.
True. Where's Las Vegas?
I believe it's Nevada.
Yes, it is.
If I'm not mistaken. Well, because you're dealing with I was confused because it was funny. I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I was like confusing myself. I was like, well, it's New Vegas, so it's in, but then the NCR's there, but that's New California Republic. California's of course right next to Nevada, though, so that makes sense.
Yes.
Geography.
Not very far. I guess he
yeah.
jetpacked all the way there.
That's
but,
true.
The Deathclaw skull was pretty cool. I like how they didn't blow the Deathclaw load either.
They didn't blow the Ron Perlman load either. Because I think that's coming. I think we will see him and hear him.
We didn't see the Meyer lurks or anything like that. They didn't like blow their load. Like no super mutants.
Thank you for actually bringing that up. You see a super mutant hand at one point.
You do.
When remember he's coming out of the Enclave and it like falls off the gurney. The hand like comes out and you see it. As he's leaving with the dog.
Maybe.
It's like a very brief thing. Maybe. He like looks down at a gurney.
And it makes sure they might be experimenting with the FEV virus as well.
So I do, that was probably my one gripe.
Which is the forced evolutionary virus, which is a pre-war virus that made super soldiers essentially, but didn't work. For your information.
So I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
You're talking about New Vegas. NCR. Forced evolutionary virus, super mutant hand. We were talking about the creatures.
Oh, creatures. That's it. We didn't get a lot of creatures. We got rad roaches. We got the gulpers. I would have liked to see...
a gulper's like a pretty new creature. Far Harbor. And
they were like you said, redesigned a little bit. But I would have liked to see maybe a few more like monsters and stuff. Maybe some mole rats. I don't know. Maybe some.
I think, but again,
we got some rad roaches, which was great. I thought kill me if I ever run into those in real life. I would have liked to see a few more monsters, but I think overall they nail it. And that power armor, man,
looks great.
It looks fantastic.
Looks great. Practical.
It really does. Practical. They definitely touched the legs up a little bit here and there while they're walking. I could tell, just because that's not going to look perfect when it's walking, but that's what they do in everything. They'll CGI touch up a person's face now. So that's just the name of the game. We find out at the end of the season that we're going to New Vegas, Scooch, and I am
Blue Moon.
I think I'm gonna rewatch this series a little bit, like throughout this next week. The music too was perfect.
Yeah, I'm sure for anyone who doesn't play the games, this like all these songs will now just remind you of Fallout, like they do for all of us. Yeah, hacking and whacking and slashing, hack, whack, chopping that meat. You know, like
Orange Colored Sky. Like there's so
all
many,
these 1950s big band songs that like are, you know, especially the Ink Spots and maybe
Bing Crosby
and don't want to set the world on fire. And
Are there is Sinatra in any of these?
Yeah, Blue Moon is a Frank Sinatra song,
duh.
but
Yeah, okay.
I think that's it. I think like New Vegas, like they did.
I'm sure
the
those
Dean.
cost a pretty penny. To be honest,
Yeah. I'm sure the Ink Spots was nothing.
Yeah,
you know,
that's interesting. All right, Gooch. Does that wrap us up on Fallout?
That wraps us up. We will see you next time.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you've been with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Just search Delco Nerd Network on your favorite service. We are on all your favorite social media pages as well. Everywhere with an @ we are at Delco Nerds. We got a Facebook page, Discord channel, all that good stuff will be linked down below. You can also email us your comments, questions, or concerns to delconerds@gmail.com. We'd be happy to get back to you. And all this information can be found on our website, delconerdnetwork.com. We hope to see you at Fan Expo on May 4th, 10:45
a.m.
Soon
as like the doors open.
Center.
The doors open at 10, so we're like one of the first panels.
So come say hi. We'd love to see you guys. But other than that, for Gooch, I've been Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy. We will see you next time.